It's just religion. It's just religion.
Hi there, welcome to RS in 5 or Less, religious studies for people who have less than 5 minutes. Today we're going to have a look at one of the extracts from St. Mark's Gospel as a source of spiritual, religious and moral truths, specifically Jesus' relationship with those disregarded by society. In this extract from Mark chapter 1, we have Jesus healing the man who has leprosy. A leper came to him begging him, and kneeling he said to him, "If you choose, you can make me clean." Moved with pity, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him and said, "I do choose, be made clean." Immediately the leprosy left him, and he was made clean. After sternly warning him, he sent him away at once, saying to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer for your cleansing what Moses commanded as a testimony to them." But he went out and began to proclaim it freely and to spread the word, so that Jesus could no longer go into a town openly, but stayed out in the country, and people came to him from every quarter. Although this brief story has an obvious interpretation, that being Jesus has the power to overcome sickness and illness, there are other considerations that we need to have a think about. First of all, the man with leprosy obviously wanted to be healed in a physical way. But if we understand something about illness in first century Palestine, we will understand that there is more to this story than the man saying, "I want my skin affliction to be cleaned up." If you had leprosy, or indeed any illness back then, this was seen as being unclean or being cursed by God. There was a link, whether spoken or unspoken, between illness and sin. So this would mean that not only would you be incredibly uncomfortable, perhaps in pain, but you would be ostracized from society. You would not perhaps be able to spend time with your family. You may not be able to work. You would not be able to go to the temple to worship. Being unclean, in a physical sense, also meant often that you were seen as unclean in a spiritual sense. So when the man comes up to Jesus and says, "I want you to make me clean," he's asking for more than one thing. Notice too Jesus' response when the man says this. He says he's moved with pity and that he reaches out and touches the man. It's entirely possible that this man would not have had any physical human contact for years and years and years. And Jesus' affirmation of him as a person, as well as his desire to make him well, tells us that Christ's view of people is not based on their spiritual cleanness, but on the fact that they are image bearers of God. This account also contains something else that is a recurring theme within Mark's Gospel, that of faith. The man comes straight up to Jesus and says, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." The man already has a faith in Christ. In addition to this, there are hints at Jesus' divinity within this passage. Notice the reaction of Jesus to the man's request. He reaches out and touches him. This would, in the eyes of society at the time, have made Jesus spiritually unclean. Jesus makes himself unclean in order to make the man clean. The 16th century German theologian Martin Luther talked about the great exchange. I give Christ all my sin, and he gives me all of his righteousness. There is an element of this in this passage. Jesus gives the man cleanliness, both spiritual and physical, but in doing so, Jesus would have been considered unclean by those around him. For an extension, why don't you look up the book of Leviticus chapters 13 and 14 and make some notes about the Old Testament view about people with leprosy. Compare them to Jesus' treatment of this man in Mark chapter 1. For Christian believers today, this story has several effects. The first is that of amazement. Christ actually healed a person whom medicine had failed. Some Christians believe that this is still to be the case today, that God does provide physical healing. Other Christians would say that this sets the tone for how they today should treat people who are disregarded by society. This raises the question, who is disregarded by society today? Which groups of people are considered unclean? And what is the link between helping people who are considered disregarded by society and being a good Christian?